Okay, so welcome back. This will be part two of the FiTech install. Now, part two, initially, I lost all the footage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just try to recap what actually happened in part two and show you after the fact. The car's already done and running at this point, but let's go back. I'll show you what I did. There really wasn't a whole lot for part two. It was mainly assembling the fuel tank and a few other things like the pressure regulator. So get you looking in here on the motor real quick, and also going to recap a few things from part one that I think I missed or kind of glazed over. So okay, so basically where video one left off, I actually cut it a little short. I don't know what happened, but I wanted to show basically the spacer here and how it looks, you know, with the throttle bodies on it. So you can see it really doesn't look too bad. It still kind of has a nice, I mean, closest to stock look you're going to get for fuel injection. And I still have, this is still the 500 CFM adapter. I have not yet gotten a 350 to a 500 adapter. So yeah, I wanted to kind of bevel it out and make it, you know, kind of blend in real nice, but that'll be someday down the road. Also that sensor up here at the front, got that whole thing working. And you know, we got the smaller bolt, so it clears that water neck right there. And I just got the wires soldered directly on the, so there's no plug there, it's just the wires soldered right on that sensor. So in part three, I'll show more of that in detail. And so this right here, it looks a little wonky because this is really short. It's not normally like that, but right now I'm having a problem with this throttle body. And so I called FiTech. One of the things we're doing to try to eliminate a potential problem is they have me flip the two injectors around. So we're trying to find out if it's a computer problem or an injector problem. So that's why this is really tight, but it normally doesn't look that janky. So the other thing that we would have covered in part two is the install down here of this fuel pressure regulator. And there's, it's kind of hard to see, but we got our two fuel lines here, okay? And one of those goes into the side and one goes down into the bottom. And then what I did was basically I took a fuel pump block off plate right there. I just welded a bracket onto it so that I could mount that pressure regulator on there. And then we got a 90-degree bend there coming up, and then into the fuel rail here. And you'll see this is actually a new fuel rail that I just built. Well, not just built, a year and a half ago, I guess, but you'll see in part three, I have the old style fuel rail on here with the brass blocks like you would have on a carbureted tri-power setup. And it was pretty cool, but it was kind of prone to leaking, so I took it off because I certainly don't want to catch this car on fire. So I'll kind of show you what we got going on over here real quickly. You know, I'll show more of this in part three and part four. You'll see some of this, but you can see how I got that bracket there for the spring. So this is actually the throttle linkage that FiTech sells. I had my own homemade rigged up throttle linkage on here at first, just to kind of get me by. And then this homemade throttle bracket here. We'll show that later on. The other thing I wanted to show you is in part one, I mentioned about these vacuum lines back here. So you definitely need something for your brake booster. So I decided I wanted to leave this here for this for the PVC or PCV. Dyslexia today. And I got this one over here which is going back there for the headlights. I believe that was for the, yeah, something like that. And then my vacuum advance here. But besides those two, the only other one is this one back here, which I said I was going to block it off in the video. But as you can see, what I ended up doing there was just a small pipe plug kind of thing with a hole in it. And then that 90-degree angle piece. And it's real tight. You know, it's kind of a tight fit. So that's kind of an Ace Hardware deal there. You got to go and see what pieces you can find that'll fit in there. A couple other things. You can see those screws. The head of that screw had to be kind of ground down a little bit because it's such a tight fit. Right now, there's actually space here. You can move these, you know, kind of around. But if you want your intake or your air filter cleaner housing to fit on here perfectly, you got to pull these nice and tight. Okay, so that pretty much wraps it up for video 2. Most of it was putting that fuel tank together and, you know, putting the float in, sending unit, you know, all that kind of stuff. And that's really pretty basic. There's other videos that show you how to do that. It's really not even that difficult. So, I mean, you know, while I was doing it, I figured I'd video it, but since we lost that, you know, is what it is. But it wasn't difficult. So that's it for this video. Like, subscribe, comment, do all those things. And we'll see you in part 3.